I
Of course,
am.
now it's like one actual learner. It wouldn't make sense for me to do my dramatic opening that I was thinking of doing.
Oh, just do it anyway, whatever. All right.
Anyway,
Cute.
I'm recording, so I'm going to go on mute and let you get started.
good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I am Signore Matteo Ballistieri di Genoa, the Siege Marshal for the Kingdom of Onstiora. Tonight we will be discussing the duties that I and everyone else who holds this office over the time are expected to do. First and foremost, our job is to promote Siege in every single way that it can possibly be promoted. Some ways there's various aspects I am working on, such as a target siege experiment, all through, as well as the combat siege. So as part of freaking brain blanked out. As part of the promotion of siege engines and the usage of them comes with the ensuring anytime a local group in the Kingdom of Onstiora sends a request to me asking for a authorizing marshal to be at a event where they're holding a bunch of marshal classes, it's my responsibility to bring up my list of authorizing marshals and try to find one who is available on that day and that lives close enough to that area. For example, Loch Solier, one of the places down south in the deep south of Texas, here last year had an event going that they had requested a marshal for. The only person that was really available was from Corpus Christi. So but he was willing to make that drive, and as a result, I believe there were 4, maybe 5 new engineers authorized, as well as a siege marshal getting authorized, which leads to one of the second points. Is a strong part of my job is to oversee the authorization of siege marshals, because let's face it, you can't really have the siege events without siege marshals there, and somebody has to coordinate making sure there's an authorizing marshal available to actually take care of these fellows and ladies. As part of that, I've been working on, and whenever I remember to, having them do a quick knowledge quiz before authorizing them as a marshal. This quiz is not so much based on how much you can remember, because it is open book. It's meant more to watch how well are you comprehending the rules. Because there are some rules that if you're just skimming over, not paying attention, you will not catch. This has to do with like the rope wrap around the arms or various things. It's just like that if you're just skimming, you'll think it says one thing, and you may fail an engine that is perfectly legal, but you didn't realize it because you didn't peruse the rule book. You just skimmed it. I have found that every few weeks it's good for me to go back through and reread the rules just to catch something that I may not have already realized. So, we just right there, we covered multiple points of what I do. You hit the overseeing the authorization of siege marshals, making sure groups have a marshal there when they request it. To go even farther with that, even though most of the time I'm going to try to delegate to to an authorizing marshal who's closer to that group, a lot of times that's not possible. So there are many times that I may have to personally travel to a group in order to hold a authorization class per their request, or just if it's a large event like BAM or something like that. As part of having all the coordinating the marshals and the trying to coordinate any practices, every single one of those marshals, siege marshals, just as the night marshals do, have to send in reports. Now, whereas the rattan swingers have to send in a report every month, all of us the missile people, our reports are quarterly. So anytime, what I've been trying to do is, and trying to get into people's heads is, even if you're a siege marshal, even if you didn't do anything at all, send in a report. Send in a report saying nothing new to report. I didn't do a daggum thing. That's okay. But because it's okay, because it still shows that you are putting some effort into it. And it's also a little sneaky, because people don't like sending in a report saying they didn't do anything. So it kind of is a little bit of an underhanded way to encourage them to do something related to the field. When I get all those reports in, I need to then consolidate them into one comprehensive report that I will then send to the Kingdom Missile Marshal, which is currently Baronessa Caterina Giovanni, as well as I also send a copy to the Society Siege Marshal. Now, the Kingdom does not actually require that other part, but the current Society Siege Marshal does like to have those reports from all the kingdoms, because it helps him gauge the temperature of the siege society, for lack of a better term. So that all, training, teaching siege engineers, teaching siege marshals, holding the practices, receiving the reports, testing siege marshals to make sure they know what they need to know, goes back to also I am still a siege marshal. Even if I'm the kingdom, I am still a field siege marshal. So I still will inspect engines, and I can coordinate the inspection of engines by other siege marshals if need be. Now, my preference is if it's a siege engine that has never been on the field before, that has not been inspected, I would prefer to inspect it myself. By taking that responsibility on myself as the head of the section, basically, for now. It's better for me to go and at least do the initial inspection, because it keeps the regular level marshals from having to deal with that responsibility. They can do all the other engines if they want, but if it's never been inspected before, never been on the field before, I prefer to inspect it myself. Not a dog on them. That's my quirk. I tend to be kind of a hands-on person with stuff like that. This also allows me to get if it's an engine that has something new about it, it gives me a chance to actually really get nitty-gritty with it. Is this something that is safe? It may be something that's completely an engine type that's never been on the field before. For instance, on tier, there's a gentleman with a tri-bow ballista. This is a Chinese Korean, I don't remember which one he said, but it's got 2 forward bows and 1 reverse bow. If somebody was to build one of those and bring it onto the field in Onsteora, I would want to inspect it personally, because that type of ballista is very delicate to get it right, to get it set up right and safely. Just like a torsion ballista or a torsion onager, an onager or something like that, that if somebody built a brand new one, they've not had a reputation for building them before, and they brought it on the field, I want to inspect it partially, so that, because I have an idea of what I need to check for on those. Because I love to play with torsion. It's a massive challenge, and challenges get my brain rolling like nothing else. So, that pretty much sums up really the core of the job. It's primarily coordination and delegation is the main core of it. Other aspects that I personally like to do is there are a number of times that people will get in contact with either the Kingdom Missile Marshal or myself asking for designs, for blueprints. Now, whereas the Kingdom itself does not currently have a stockpile of blueprints for siege engines, I am working on trying to change that. I'm always trying to come up with new designs, new blueprints, that particularly ones that are easily understood and built by less experienced builders. Generally, your traction trebuchets are usually the best ones for this, with the Docomo Ballista being a really good second one, simply because there's designs that are readily available. They're tried, they're true. There's not really a whole lot of delicacy that you have to do as long as you follow the directions. But if somebody was to get a hold of me and say, hey, I would like help designing this type of engine, I'm more, my personal opinion is that the Kingdom Siege Marshal should always be willing to help develop those designs. Because, I mean, it goes back to promoting the discipline. Something else I have personally been doing, although between a lack of free time and then hampered by the COVID stuff, I have been any small group in Onsteora that does not have access to a siege engine but has an interest in developing a program defined as at least 2 people who want to be it. I will build them a small Woman's Wood / Valkyrie class traction trap. I've got the stuff for multiple of them sitting in my garage. I've got two actual engines sitting in my garage of that style. That, once again, I'll just, between not being able to do events and then me being busy, I haven't been able to get as far with that as I want. This is something I would like to see whoever replaces me continue, should it be within their means to do so. Fully understand it if it's not possible. Another thing I'm also working on is if you know anything about siege engines, you know that there's Class B and Class C, or Class B and Class A based on their footprint. Most counterweight trebs, which is what I love the most, that's my baby. Most counterweight trebs are Class A. They're big. One of the things I'm trying to do is try to develop a Class B counterweight treb that actually is good to easily worked by 2 people, yet still movable, still effective. This also, once again, this goes back to promoting the discipline. If I can come up with enough designs, or can get people to submit enough good designs, that we can build a a Kingdom engine design library, so that when me or my replacement or whoever receives a request, say, hey, I'd like a design to build such type of engine, we got, okay, sure, click, here you go. Here's the materials list, here's the design. But it all goes back to one overarching concept: promote the discipline in any way possible to the betterment of the society and of the kingdom. A lot of people who know me know particularly the played up dramatic persona I play. I particularly play it up when it comes to the siege engines, because let's face it, nothing is more dramatic than a big trebuchet. Nothing catches attention while doing nothing like a siege engine. So that really sums everything up pretty succinctly. As I told Kat, it's really not an overly complicated thing, as she well knows. So wasn't going to take me long to go through. So I guess if there's questions, go ahead, ask. I will attempt to answer.
I don't have a question, but I do have a caveat, because I know that some of the people that have held this office before, including myself, are less mechanically inclined. So like, I have never actually, I mean, I've helped build an engine, but to do it myself and design it myself, not going to happen. But I can have work days at my house where I have my husband and Matteo and other people that know what they're doing be there to help teach people to make them. And, you know, I can teach you to make ammo. I can teach you to do that all day. And there's parts of, you know, the trebuchets that I can do, like wrapping the arm with the rope and stuff like that. But to, you know, yeah, I think it's super important that, because that was one of the big things that I heard when I was Siege Marshal is, well, okay, I'm authorized, but now I have no idea how to make an engine. It's a big stumbling block. And so that's why I started having the group, you know, workshops where we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, 2 weekends in a row or whatever we needed to do to get people on the field. But, you know, if someone wanted to take on this office, I would say you don't have to do all that yourself, but you're going to have to reach out to the people that know how to get them to help you.
Good point. And like, I love building engines. It comes, I don't want to say it comes naturally to me, but it comes fairly easily to me, just simply because that's how my brain works. You know, I could sit there at an engine. I don't use designs. That's the hardest part for me when it comes to helping with people with designs, is I don't build engines off of designs. I build them off a picture in my head. So a lot of times people then will be like, hey, can you send me the design for that? I'm like, yeah, let me work on that. But to give you an idea of how much I like to build engines, I have been into Siege now for about 1.5 years. I have built, let's see here, 2 large counterweight trebuchets, 3 manpower trebuchets, helped build a ballista, built an onager, built 2 mantlets, which are siege structures, made a ram, which is technically a siege structure. Have a Class B trebuchet underway in the garage, have another Class A trebuchet underway in the garage, and have material for about 4 more Class B traction trebs in the garage. So if somebody wants to build, you know, and I plan on building a torsion ballista, and possibly even a Docomo style at some point, because why not? So if somebody, especially if my replacement or anyone needs help still building or anything like that, I am more than willing to help. I am very easily bored. I need something to keep my mind active. And the best way to do that is a challenge.
When people ask you for a design, could you not just send them pictures and like measurements of like, hey, so here's this piece and it's, you know, I don't know, whatever, 4x6 or whatever it is, and then have them work off of that? Because like I know I took measurements off of, and this is how my sewing brain works because I sew, the ICAC combat archery target at Bees and Foyer practice not that long ago. And then I was able to come home and just from my pictures and my measurements, redraw it and like figure out, you know, what that's going to look like. Just a thought. I don't know. Might be easier than actually putting together, you know, plans or whatever.
Normally what I do is I'm going to I'm going to paint and set just a very basic, shapes of it with the measurements. Because I don't know how to make actual blueprints. So sometimes there'll be a piece of paper. I'll sit there and draw it out and do something like this. I'll have your cuts list and all that. Usually it'll be like that, hand done, or it'll be, if I have the time, I'll try and make it all pretty in the computer. But like actual proper blueprints, such as like what some of these guys can do, I don't know how to do those.
I think
my cup
what
of
you
tea.
have drawn out there is pretty functional. I mean, I think if you took a picture of that or scanned that and uploaded it, people could probably figure it out.
Stuff
Just
like
me,
that's
though.
usually what I try to put out. But
I
that one
agree
for
with Kat. Those are pretty good.
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I said I agree with Kat. Those are pretty good and very functional. You don't necessarily need to draw them as a blueprint like you would in CAD or something like that. Just, I mean, a sketch with measurements on it is really what people need.
That's good that as long as people are able to work from that, which I think most people can. I think there's a few people that need a little bit better detail than that. But that's if that's not good enough, I'm more than willing to send them a wall of text telling them exactly step by step how to do it. Get away, dog. You're not a lap dog. Go. Like I said, that one right there will actually, that's the one that will basically turn you out woman's wood. Go. Get out of here, Thor.
So I have a question for you. The rules and regulations for Siege, how much of an influence do you have on that? What is the chain of command on that to get those approved?
If there was something that somebody thought was needed to be changed, what I would do is I would ask them to, first of all, provide me in written form exactly what they thought needed to be changed, what they thought it needed to be changed to, and why they thought it needed to be changed to that. Once I had that in hand, I would then go to the Kingdom Missile Marshal, and I would discuss it with them. After which the two of us would most likely then go to the Earl Marshal, and then we discuss it with them. At that point, my belief, and I don't have verification on this, but this is my belief, it would get slated to be discussed at the next round table, because on something like that, I don't think the Earl Marshal would just say, oh yeah, let's just change that. I think he would want to get everyone's opinion on it. Also, I would seek to get the Society Siege Marshal's input on it as well.
The
At that
rules
point,
are society, though, right? So if it were to be changed, it'd have to be changed at the society level. We don't have Kingdom of Onstiora rules.
there are Onsiora does not does not have specialized rules. Some kingdoms do actually have, even in their siege book, have a more specific rule book than what the society level uses. Although Onsiora typically, Onsiora does its best stay precisely the same as society level. So I hope that answers your question.
So our changes, though, we would have to go to society or write our own book, which we have not done yet as a kingdom.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go away, Thor.
Did you have a specific change in mind, Katya, or were you just asking?
No, I was just asking because, I mean, every once in a while, well, with the new rebated sword, I don't know, I don't remember what it was. It's
Rebated
like, well,
steel.
How do we go about making changes like that? What if somebody discovers a new ballista type thingy and we decide we want one? So, I mean, what changes do we have to do? So I was just kind of wondering about that.
Well, for instance, go away, daggum dog. I take a little bit more leeway when it comes to some of the stuff with Siege. For example, there is a program that I've been waiting to try to get going in Onsiora, the Target Siege competition. And this is actually not a combat setup. It's using actual live bolts. I've been waiting for actually us to be able to hold stuff again for like, basically I'm waiting to a round table to bring it up, get discussed with the Earl Marshal and all that. Technically, it's kind of a gray area on whether that would actually fall into my purview or not. But I just kind of grabbed it and ran with it. That would be one of those changes. However, to actually be able to, so I can I can authorize people to experiment with this on their own, and then to just send me reports on it. But in order to be able to do it at an official SCA practice or an official SCA event, it would have to be signed off by the Earl Marshal. However, at the current moment, my understanding is that even from the conversations that involved the society siege, is he doesn't want any of this going on at events until the society Earl Marshal has signed off on it, being as it's essentially creating an entire new discipline. The rebated steel is just like that is an entirely new discipline. It's bringing it's trying to bring a little bit more of a Battle of the Nations, Bohart type deal into the realm of the SCA, if that's at all clear. So relatively small changes we could probably handle with the Earl Marshal's blessing. Anything major, we would almost definitely we would have to go through society, just because of how it could change the game.
Does that new target have to go through the experimental stages, like an experimental weapon? Or is it just they sign off on it and yay, you can do it now?
It would not be going through the experimental stages, as it is not a list legal thing.
Right. It's not combat. Gotcha.
It is not a combat field thing, although the current testing rule set is using combat legal engines, but it is actually a live projectile. So it's not going to go through the experimental stuff as far as I'm aware. However, if we wanted to dot our T's and cross our I's. And my intention is actually to run it once the Earl Marshal has said he's okay with it. My intention is to run it through the experimental system, just CYOA.
You get a
Because
lot
I'd
of
rather
feedback that way about it too, and how it
Exactly.
went. A lot more data than you would otherwise.
Exactly. And this isn't a thing that I will personally be able to head up. It's something that really needs to be headed up by somebody with a ballista and who's able to and has the space and time to do the tests on their own. So whoever, I know Carl Thorgerson is very interested in it. I may try to con him into heading it up. So, what else?
I didn't have anything else. Katja, did you have any other questions? I think we may have lost her.
Probably.
So, alrighty.
I told you it'd be short.
No, that's fine. There's no reason to try to stretch it. If you're, done saying what you need to say, it's all good. No, not a problem.
I kind of thought there'd be more people with questions, but yeah, is what it is.
There may be some that watch the video and then get in touch with you to ask questions later too. So,
Okay.
but thank you so much for teaching for us. I appreciate it very much. Did a great job. And if nobody has any other questions, we can all go ahead and sign off for the night, and I will talk to everybody later.
Have fun.
All right, you too. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.